Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is John Butero, and I'm going to try to do this video with a guest today that I just simply don't really want to make move. This is my kitten, Tater Tot. He was laying here and he's comfortable and he's actually behaving right now. Like most kittens, he likes to run around and get into mischief, and so I just assume keep him where he's at. But I'm going to try to do the video anyway with him where he's at. And I want to talk about the subject of questions that religion supposedly cannot answer, things that Christians can't answer. And it comes from a video called Religion Over Faith. And in this video, he gives 10 supposed things that Christians cannot answer. That's what he says. And I'm going to go ahead and answer him. I'm also going to answer his bonus questions because even though he says there's 10 of them, he actually gives 18 different questions. So let me go ahead and see how much I can do. I don't want to make a real long video because I know that, people, are under time constraints nowadays. We're all busy. And I know our attention span's not real big too. So I'm going to go ahead and do this video, try to do it in a reasonable amount of time, even though it's a lot of questions. So let's start with number one. Who created God? Now, when I've talked about evolution, I've always said that when it comes to evolution, it has to have a beginning because everything is about things evolving. So now evolution, I realize evolution and the Big Bang are two different things. But if we're talking about through evolution, supposedly you trace it back to microscopic sea organisms. And those microscopic sea organisms evolved into everything else. Well, right there alone, where did the microscopic sea organisms come from? And where did the earth and the sea come from? Well, that in itself is a big question. But then on top of that, you got the Big Bang. And if you are looking at that, nobody can answer, well, where in the world did the material come from that exploded and kept on expanding and expanding and expanding until we had everything that exists today. And it's really a ridiculous theory in the first place because when you think about what they're actually saying happened, they're saying it all happened by random chance. So you had a situation where that the universe just kept expanding and expanding, just ever increasing to make things. So it would just spit out stars and planets and all this kind of stuff. And I've even made jokes about that and how that it would eat something spicy and then it would have heartburn and spit out stars, or it would pass stones and then they would become the various planets. I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing, and there's a lot of ways I can make jokes about it. But where did God come from? That's the question. There's only one logical explanation for this, and everybody wants to talk about logic. I can only think of one logical explanation for that. That's that God, being eternal, exists outside of time. Time didn't exist until God created it. So everything that exists was created by God, and that includes time. And time was created for our benefit. So the answer to the question of who created God, nobody, because time didn't exist until God created it. And when time doesn't exist and you exist outside of time, you don't need a creator. So that's number one. Why would a perfect God need worship? And then the question is, does that make him insecure? Well, he doesn't need worship. He can demand worship because God can do anything he wants. He can just want it just because he just wants it. I mean, really nothing about that. And insecure, not insecure, however you want to look at it. I mean, that comes back to the same idea of whether God is good or bad. Is he all good and all loving? That doesn't make him real or not real. It's just a question of your opinion of him. So if you want to say that you think God's insecure for wanting worship, you can insult him all you want. People are going to do it anyway. But why does he need worship? He doesn't need it. He desires it. And who to say why anybody or anything wants whatever it wants. I mean, why in the world would he want to create creatures that attack him constantly? He's got a reason for everything, but I didn't really find that to be much of a question, but it was on the list. Why does God communicate in confusing ways, allowing like thousands of religions to exist, and even allowing a lot of disagreements? Because um, God doesn't want everybody to come to the truth. I know that is uh, something that goes against most people's beliefs, but it is true. If God wanted everybody to come to the faith and believe and be saved, then that's what he would have done. And he would have made the Bible in such a way where it required no effort or anything for us to understand it. But clearly, that's not God's intention. And we know that we see that in the Bible, where Jesus himself spoke in parables that people seeing would see and not see, and they would hear, but they wouldn't really hear and understand. And then they would be, because if they did, they'd all be saved. He didn't intend for that to happen. He made it to where people have to seek to find him, and he reveals himself to whomever he wants to. Because you can go back to, say, the Apostle Paul. Out of all the people that were around at the time, Saul of Tarsus wasn't the only man who was going around persecuting the Christian church, and he's not the only one that God could have revealed himself to. He could have revealed himself to any of the number of the rest of the ones that were persecuting him, persecuting Christ, but he chose Saul. He was a chosen vessel. He could have chosen Gamaliel, the man that Saul learned at his feet. And there's absolutely nothing in the scripture that indicates that he ever revealed himself to Gamaliel. Why? Because God chooses to reveal himself to whoever he wants to. So the answer to that is he did not want everybody to come to the truth. He puts the truth out there, but we have to seek him diligently to find him. And why did he do that? Because that's just the way he wanted it. And it goes back somewhat to what it says over in the book of Romans about him being the potter and we're the vessels, and we're the creation, and really doesn't make any difference why he did it. He can do whatever he wants to. So that's the answer for that. Why is suffering equal for believers and unbelievers? Well, even the Bible itself says that rains on the just and on the unjust. And we also know from the scriptures that God does not do things the way that maybe we would do them. That God has his own plan in place, and it's not the way that humans would do things. According to the way we would do things, yes. If we were someone who was a strong follower of God, we might think they should never have to endure anything, but we know that that's not the way it works. As a matter of fact, Jesus had told his own disciples that they were all going to have to be martyred for following him. And he even told Peter how he was going to die. He was telling them how he was telling him he was going to be crucified one day. And the only one of the apostles that was not crucified was John, the apostle John. He was allowed to remain, and he was on the Isle of Patmos, where he wrote the book of Revelation. So God had a purpose for not having that happen to him. But all the rest of them, they ended up dying a terrible death, including Paul. As a matter of fact, God even told him that he was going to have to suffer greatly for following him. So why does he allow it? Well, because it's about fulfilling his plan. He has a plan for everybody. And, we talk about, some people talk about that butterfly effect, and how just small things, even like a butterfly flapping its wings, has an effect on the entire universe. Well, every interaction we have, every event that takes place, it all has an effect on things. And every single life and every single interaction affects things. And we have got to somehow or another fulfill God's ultimate plan of taking us from Genesis to Revelation, and eventually a new heaven and a new earth. So little minor changes will change that. And so it's kind of like a script. It's kind of like scripted. I've even mentioned how that I look at it like this. I look at it like our Bible, the 66 books in the canon. That is the information that God gave us of where we came from and where we're heading. And it can only contain so much information because we can only handle so much. But you could look at that as sort of a abridged version of what God's got. In his book, it contains every single person on the face of the earth that would ever exist. God already knows the script. He knows what's going to happen all the way from Genesis to Revelation. And we're somewhere between Genesis and Revelation in that book. And everything has to take place in a certain way. So every life is important. Everybody that's ever been conceived matters. There's a purpose for everything. And so the answer to that is simply it's necessary in order to fulfill God's plan. Take a look at somebody, even the bad people that God creates, like a Judas Iscariot. He was necessary to fulfill a role. So why does God do that? Well, because he's got a reason for it. So if I go through hard times of suffering or something like that, it's because it was necessary for something. I mean, you could look at the recent events with Charlie Kirk. Why did God allow that? Why didn't he protect his servant? Well, he has some kind of a divine plan. And I don't know exactly how it's all going to work out. I don't know if it's going to involve his widow. I don't know if it's going to, it's because of a lot of other events that took place, maybe an expansion of that ministry. But whatever the reason, there was a reason God allowed it. So it all comes down to fulfill God's plan. And that's the answer for that question. Why do miracles hide from cameras in hospitals and observation? Supposedly not one clear miracle is recorded. Well, and they said a lot of them are based on, eyewitness accounts. Well, a lot of the time, these miracles are being recorded. They're at services and so forth. And you see multitudes of people go through prayer lines. We don't know who's healed and who's not. And I can tell you right now firsthand of situations that I know for a fact miracles took place in tent revivals. Even involving my wife. I've brought this up in other places. She was really hooked on cigarettes. Now, anybody that knows has ever smoked knows how bad cigarettes are addicting. Nicotine is an extremely addictive drug, and she had it so bad. She had picked up the habit as a child, and when she was still smoking, it was in her early 20s, and she could not stop. And she was so addicted to cigarettes and tobacco that if she couldn't get a cigarette, she didn't have any, and there was a cigarette butt on the ground, she was so hooked, she would pick it up and try to smoke it. That's really addicted. I was at a tent revival with her the night she was delivered miraculously from that. The minister had her bring what cigarettes she had up there, throw them on the ground and stomp on them, and he prayed for her. And you know what? She never smoked again. And that's been more than 40 years ago. I've been married to her now for over 40 years, and she's never smoked during the time we've been married. The time she was a smoker was when we were dating. So I know that happened with her. I also know of a miracle that happened with her when she kept having these recurring illnesses, and they had said that it was just a short time she would end up being on dialysis because of it, and she was healed. Now, again, you're just taking my word for this. You have no way of knowing any of this is true. But it wasn't done on a camera where I've got any proof of it. However, there's a lot of stories like that and a lot of people that have experienced things like that. And without scientific, conditions and so forth, you're just not going to believe it. There's stories I've heard of, many stories about miracles that took place to people in the hospital. Does everybody get healed? No. And why is that? Well, I think it's the same reason why that, bad things happen to good people. I think it's about fulfilling God's will. So it really just comes down to that. It does happen. It's just that it doesn't always happen like we want it to. And people just simply deny the miracles. They'll just say that they weren't real. Why would God create humans with desires that it punishes? Well, I mean, why does our legal system do that? When we talk about desires that people have, a lot of them are talking about the desires to commit fornication and even the homosexual crowd. But people have other kinds of desires, and even our society punishes them, and for good reason. We have people that are attracted to children, and that's a natural attraction they have. I mean, they can't help that. They are attracted to who they're attracted to. What do they say? The heart wants what the heart wants, and yet our society has to punish that. So, why in the world would you expect that God wouldn't? Let's go on some other stuff too on the same idea. There's people that have been serial killers, and they say that they have a desire to kill and they can't help it. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. If something compels them to keep killing. There's kleptomaniacs that, they have a natural desire and urge to steal, and our society punishes them for that. So, you say, well, why would God punish people for, fornicating or engaging in homosexual acts? Well, because God forbids that. It's against his moral laws, just like we have laws too. God does as well. So that's the answer to that one. Why does an all perfect God need humans to defend it? He doesn't. We do that by our own choice. He doesn't need me to defend him. I willingly do it because I love God, and I appreciate the fact that Jesus came and died for me. I appreciate all of his blessings. I believe every good and perfect thing comes down from the Father of lights. I appreciate him. I'm loyal to him, and so I will defend him. I see him getting attacked. I'd defend him just like if it's a family member. My natural father was under attack. Of course, I would defend him. Does he need me to, or did he ever need me to? Not necessarily, but I would defend him because he's my dad, and I'm loyal to him, and I love my father. Or same thing, my mother, or my any of my relatives. So God doesn't need us to, but we do it willingly because we love the Lord. Why do religion's morality change with time? Well, that's because people are trying to be public relations people for God. I've told you that on other videos. It's because they're trying to make God acceptable to this generation and the people of this generation. It's not because that it really changed. It's because people think that they have a better chance of winning people to God if God is more in line with today's social norms. I don't believe in that at all. I believe in going back to the Bible exactly the way it was. I still believe in the hierarchy, the way that the Bible describes it. I believe in everything that's in the Bible. I'll defend it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'll defend anything that God ever did. Just basically saying he is not subject to any of our rules and regulations. And yes, he has the right to put things on us that he won't do himself because he's God. He can do anything he wants. And he did put a lot of regulations and rules on us that do not apply to him because no rules apply to God. So answer to that, it didn't change. Men changed. And one of the main things that I promote is that we need to go back to what the Bible teaches. And we need to stop trying to fit in with social norms of this day. I believe a lot of the problems we have in our society today is because we have tried to adjust to social norms. And we're scared of being labeled. We're scared of being labeled a homophobe. We're scared of being labeled a misogynist or whatever. I couldn't care less. I just simply hold to the Bible. So why have they changed with the times? Because men changed with the times. God did not change with the times. That's the answer to that. So religion, morality, changing with the times, that's not God's problem. That's man's problem. And it's in our society is really paid for it because these progressive changes have been detrimental to our society. Why does God allow errors in the Bible? And we supposedly know there are errors because of scientific knowledge that we have today. Well, I got an easy answer for that. There are not errors in the original Textus Receptus manuscripts that were in Greek and Hebrew. there are some translation problems that have come about because it's very difficult to translate Greek and Hebrew into another language. There's always going to be something lost in the translation. And so that's part of it. We don't have the original manuscripts that they had translated it from, but the originals were perfect. But what we've got today is very close. There are minor errors in it, like things to do with numbers and stuff like that were translated. But now he's going further than that. He's saying errors like to deal with based on our scientific knowledge and stuff like that. My thing is that much of the so-called scientific knowledge is scientific theory, not fact. Even down to stuff like, the sun being a star and that all the different stars are distant suns. I don't believe any of that, and I don't believe the scientists can prove it. Well, we've seen it through observation, through telescopes, and through all these different things. It's not proof. I don't believe it. My belief is that the sun and stars are separate creations. Couldn't care less if anybody wants to mock that or not. I don't care. That's what I believe, and I challenge anybody to prove it. I didn't say, give me evidence. The typical answer I get from these people is they've got mountains of evidence for it. No, they don't. They've observed it. They have had peer review. They have got scientific consensus. That's not proof. So I say prove that all those stars are really distant suns with all these planets around them. Prove it. The only way you're going to prove it to my satisfaction is to be able to actually go up in a spaceship and go to these distant galaxies. And I have to see it myself. I'm not even taking their word for it because I believe a lot of the stuff that the scientists claim is not even legitimate. I think that they have promoted a lot of stuff that's not even true at all and not even factual. Yeah, I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist, but again, prove it. There's the evidence is not proof, and somewhere they're going to realize that. As a matter of fact, they want us to talk about being critical thinkers about the Bible. Be a critical thinker about science and how much the stuff they really say, how much of it can they really prove? So if we're basing it and saying the Bible's wrong based on modern what we understand today based on modern science is the same nuts that are going around telling us that everything came from microscopic sea creatures. And I know some people still believe that. I don't. They're the same ones that are telling us that, this Big Bang just created everything out of nothing. They can't explain it, but that's what they're saying. I don't believe that. Let them prove all this stuff. Start challenging every single one of these things that we supposedly know from science and how that we came to the point where we know these things. Think them. See evidence, have peer review, stuff like that. Okay. And consensus, but at the same time, telling me that you've got proof, you absolutely do not. Same thing with the historical data that supposedly disproves the Bible. They'll say stuff like, well, the time of the census or the time of the tax collection, when Jesus was born was at a different time than what the Bible says. Prove it. They'll say, well, we got historians that are out there saying it. My Bible says different, and I choose the biblical account over them. Prove it. They can't do it. They expect you just to blindly believe it, just blindly follow them. They tell you stuff, and you're supposed to just believe it. I don't. So I'm saying, prove it. They can't do it. Why does God allow? Let's see. Okay, that was the last one we were just tackling. Why God believes like people imagine that He would be? Well, why did God say it? They were actually talking about gods in general, different gods that have ever existed in different times, different cultures, and whatever. Most of them are like that. There's truth to that. Most of the gods, they are like the people of the place they were at. But that's not true of the God of the Bible. I actually was thinking about that and how God is nothing like what men would have him for different reasons. One, we wouldn't put all these restrictions on our own selves because the God of the Bible is too demanding. When they created the idea of animal sacrifice, there's nothing unusual about sacrifice. Men have done that in their imaginations when they created a lot of gods, but they do not create anything as complicated as the Levitical priesthood. Nobody would do that. It's way too complicated. We would write a much simpler system of just simply animal sacrifice, like most religions do. So no, I don't think that it's anything like that either. Eternal punishment is not something that we would come up with because it goes against the way men do things. We always have a set sentence, and we would not send anybody to eternity in hell simply because they don't believe something. It would have to be for terrible crimes they committed. So the God of the Bible is nothing like people would imagine. So I totally reject that. That's a ridiculous claim in the first place. As a matter of fact, when I heard that claim, that one strengthened my faith. That one, when I went back and thought about it, it actually strengthened my faith because I got to thinking about how different God is from what people imagine. So I don't go along with any of that either. I was going to go ahead and do the bonus comments, the bonus things. He's got 8 more things about God that we supposedly cannot answer. But my video is already getting on up towards 30 minutes. I do not want to go over 30 minutes on one video. So I'm going to end it with the original 10, but I will try later in the week, if the Lord allows, to get the other 8 bonus things that he was asking. Again, this came from religion over faith, or excuse me, no, it's not religion over faith. It came from reason over faith. Sorry, I knew that wasn't right. It came from a channel called Reason Over Faith, and they're the ones that came up with this list of 10 questions that Christians just cannot answer. So I've answered the 10. But he did have 8 that I'll call bonus questions because I was jotting them down as I was looking at the video. And Lord willing, I will try to pick up those other 8 things that he brought up and answer the other 8 questions that Christians supposedly cannot answer. If you are not a subscriber to this channel, I want to invite you to subscribe. One thing you're going to find out about me, I am a Christian. I am a Bible-believing Christian, but I don't follow other people's beliefs. I have my own beliefs. As somebody who studied the Bible his own self, when I got saved, I did not immediately just start following what people were teaching in the churches. I went out and got a Bible. I got a King James Bible. Opened it up in Matthew, read through Revelation, then went back to Genesis and read straight through. And I've been rereading the Bible ever since. I've been studying it ever since. I've read the Bible straight through cover to cover, including 3 times through the 1611 edition King James Bible with the Apocrypha. I've done that on my own. I have researched various different types of Christian denominations, and a lot of things. I've done a lot of personal study on my own, and even involving other religions and other beliefs. So I have my own beliefs. And so if you want to see some different thoughts on Christianity, but from a Bible-believing Christian, subscribe to this channel and check out the videos as I come up with new ones. I'll also be talking about things to do with politics, because a lot of the reason the atheists are attacking God is because they think that by attacking God and turning us away from him, it will make us liberals. I'm also very much a conservative Republican. I got interested in politics at the age of 14, and I attended my first Republican Party meeting when I was 14 years old. And I was not raised with, parents that were real strict conservative Christians and parents that were Republicans. As a matter of fact, my parents were registered Democrats. They were conservative Democrats, but they were registered Democrats. I was only the second Republican in my family. The only other one was my grandmother, and I didn't know what her politics were. I didn't talk about it all the time. But I'm very much a free thinker, and I do use logic, and I do have my own thoughts. So if you're interested, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll try to get some more videos out soon. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.